Listen, aggregate information from speech and gesture into a single mental representation. For example, after having watched a storyteller narrate a story, listeners repeated information from both the storyteller speech and gesture in their later retelling. Next, second one, gesture for communication. Like the study of spoken language, which can be characterized by its parts. The study of gesture has also identified the different subtypes of gesture. Broadly, these can be classified as representative or non-representative gesture. Representative gesture including iconic gestures, which depicts the shape, size, action or position of an object. They also include metaphoric gesture, which give concrete from to abstract idea, and dielectric gesture, which are used to refer to location of a object in space. Non-representative gestures are often called beat gesture, which are brief, repetitive movements that occur in rhythm with speech but without substantive meaning, serving instead to stress or emphasize certain word. Representational gesture are symbolic and can only be interpreted within the context of speech. In contrast, in contrast to other non-gesture hand movements such as emblems, which are conventionalized sign, or pantomimes, which are limitation of motor action and can replace speech entirely. Representational gestures are the focus of this paper for the meaningful role they play in spoken language. Third one, gesture for the listeners. Perhaps the most obvious communication benefits of gesture are those produced for the listener. While listeners receive much of message in speech alone, gesture may be particularly communicate in different listening situations, such as a listening in noise, listening in the second language, or listening with hearing loss. However, even in typical listening situation, gesture often communicate unique information that is not present in the speech single. Take one example. For example, a speaker might say, "The batter hit the ball," while gesture a high arching trajectory, uniquely communicating the ball's path. In this case, the message could not be fully understood without integrating the speech and gesture. Listeners attend this unique information in gesture and later report information from the both speech and gesture in their retellings. Healthy people integrate information from both speech and gesture into a single memory representation, even when they contain conflicting information. This is done without explicit awareness or attention to the gesture. In fact, interviewers can mislead eyewitness when the gesture during the seemingly open question. The fourth one, gesture for the speaker. While it may seem intuitive that gesture as function for the listener, gesture also has important benefit for the speaker. Although speakers gesture more when their listener can be seen them. They also produce gesture when the listener cannot. One example, for example, people gesture when talking on the phone, and blind speaker even gesture to blind listener. Here we explore the functions of gesture for the speaker. One view proposes that in addition to communicating information to the listener, gesture play an active role in speech production. Points that cross model priming via gesture increasing natural activation and make the word easier to assess. Indeed, people gesture more and when word retrieval in difficult, such as when speaking spontaneously or recalling the objective from memories. The temporal nature of speech and gesture supports this idea, as well as in that the onset of gesture usually precedes the word with which is associated. Fifth one, gesture for cognition. Unlike speech, the spontaneous gesture that speaker produce have no standardized form, but rather ideas generic, ideas in a critic, because they are free to take a varieties of forms. They uniquely reveals the speaker's thoughts in the way speech cannot. The form of our gestures reflects our knowledge, experience, and increasingly gestures has been shown to have self-oriented cognitive functions that extend benefit of gesture behind speaking into cognition more broadly. The gesture for conceptual purpose, that gesture facilitate the conceptualization by activating, manipulating, packaging, and exploring the spatio-motoric information. In other words, gesture help thinking as well as speaking. Here we explore some of the way gesture interact with cognition. Last point, sixth point, not sixth point, the last point of this slides. Gesture reduces cognitive load. Given that speaker gesture more when a task with cognitively or linguistically complex, it is critical to understand how gesture confers cognitive benefits. One theory is that producing co-speech gesture improve working memory by reducing the cognitive load, and then are asked to explain something during which gesture is either allowed or prohibited. Afterward, they are tested on recall of the initial learner items in this task. Recall is better for both children and adults when they are allowed to gesture during the explanation phase, suggesting that producing gesture reduces the cognitive load during speaking, so that speaker can devote more cognitive resources to rehearsal for the target stimulator when the gesture participants produce are meaningful. An alternative explanation is that the act of inhabiting gestures production increases the cognitive load and reduces the performance. Intent evidence suggests that inhibiting gestures is more cognitively costly for people with low working memory capacity relative, relative to those with high working memory capacity. And individual difference in working memory abilities predict gesture rate in story retell task, providing further evidence for facilitating role of gesture on language production and recall when verbal working memory is taxed. This result highlights the potential benefit of gesture for freeing up cognitive resources and importantly suggest potential negative ramifications for restricting gesture use, particularly in special population that may have reduced working memory or attentional capacities, which is an important consideration neurogenic communication disorders. Next, seventh one, spontaneous gesture predict readiness to learn. Readiness to learn. Our hand not only reveals what we know but also what we are about to know. Gesture produce a language learnings. Children produce their first gesture between age 8 to 12 months prior to their first word at about 12 months. Furthermore, the gesture children produce predict with words with enter the child vocabulary first before creating multiple words combination. Babies first combine the word with gesture. Children who produce gesture word combination first also produce two word combination. First, these early gestures have distal efforts on children communication as well. The gesture used at 14 months predicts vocabulary size at 42 months and 54 months of age, and babies who produce more gesture speech combination at 18 months of age produce more complex sentence when they are 3 years old. Next, eighth one, gesture facilitates memory. Gesture not only depicts a readiness to learn but also make learning fast. A student of classroom learning have revealed that children learn better and show better retention and transfer of new learning when their teacher gesture. Furthermore, when teacher gesture or particular strategy during the mass instruction, children were more likely to produce that gesture themselves during the learning period, possibly meditating or enhancing the efforts of teacher gesture on learning. Indeed, although viewing gesture improve learning, producing gesture as an even large efforts on comprehension and memory. Children learn and remember better when they produce gesture during the learning compared to the children who spoke only during a lesson. Therefore, encouraging teachers to gesture improve both children's access to the information and changes the way in which they engage and interact with the materium themselves. Next, ninth one. Gesture is neurogenic communication disorders. So far, we have reviewed evidence that gesture has robust functions for both communication and cognition. Our hands provide a modulate of communicating unique kinds of information. Benefiting both listeners and speakers, but they reflect and shape our knowledge and experience. Despite a rich literature that highlights the benefit of gesture, and there is a tightly integrated relationship with speech. Gesture has received substantially less attention in our efforts to understand and treat neurogenic communication disorders. Here, neurogenic, neurogenic communication disorder is an umbrella term that refer to communication impairments with neurological origin, including damage from relatively focal lesions from stroke or diffuse neuropathology from insult or degeneration. The four neurogenic communication disorder reviewed here are aphasia, RHD, TBI, and AD. Of these, aphasia is considered a primary language impairment, often due to focal damage to canonical language network, whereas RHD, TBI, and AD are considered cognitive communication disorders where communication defects are secondary, resulting from primary cognitive defects, memory, attention, executive functions. The difference among these disordered population provide key context for testing theories of the relationship between speech and gestures and examining gestures' role in communication and cognition. Next, 10th, gesture and social communication. Disruption in social communication are common to all neurogenic communication disorders, but these impairments have perhaps been most studied and well documented in TBI. Successful communication involves the integration and interpretation of both verbal and non-verbal signals. Healthy people automatically integrated information from speakers, speech and gestures, and use information from gesture to improve pragmatic understanding. However, while gesture is an integral and often essential part of our communicative message, only a couple studies have examined the perception of gesture by people with TBI. Whether people with TBI could be use gesture to interpret communication act of varying level of complexity. Participants watched short silent movie in which the actor communicated only through gestures. Participants then choose a photograph represent the appropriate conclusion from a field of 4. People with TBI were as successful as control at using gesture to interpret interpret, interpret simple and complex standard communication act. However, people with TBI were significantly worse at interrupting gesture, communicating deceit or irony. Gesture and memory. Examining a link between gesture and memory in cognitive communication disorder is important for several reasons. Gesture play a special role in promoting memory and learning. Defects in memory and learning are common across cognitive communication disorders, and the success of all the behavioral therapeutic interventions depends critically on memory and learning. Memory is not a unit, unitary functions but rather provides an account of our experiences and knowledge and including the process that support our encoding, consideration and retrieval of information with both temporary and long-term storage capacity. Memory is often divided into functionally and biologically distinct systems. Two primary system Two primary systems that support long-term memory are the declarative and procedural memory system. The declarative memory system, mediated by hippocampus, supports acquisitions of facts and words, word language, word knowledge, word language and knowledge, and episodic events. Facial expression. A facial expression, the face as a whole indicate much about human moods. Specific emotional states such as happiness or sadness are expressed through a smile or frown, respectively. There are 7 universal recognized emotions shown through facial expression, such as first fear, anger, surprise, contempt, disgust, happiness, and sadness. These are the 7 facial expression. An impassive expression may be an asset to a good poker player, but to as speaker it is barrier to effective communication. People watch a speaker's face during the presentation. Politeness, of course, is one of reason for this, but equally important in the needs to obtain visual data that will make the speaker's message more meaningful. A facial expression is often the key determination of the meaning behind the message. Here's an example. If a friends were to smile warmly at you and say, "You are crazy. You are crazy." Would you feel insulted? Probably not. Probably not. In fact, you might even take it as a sign of endearment. But what if this statement were accompanied by a contemptuous contempt, sneer. The verbal message would be the same, but your reaction would no doubt be drastically different. When you speak, your space communication must attitudes, feeling, and emotional more clearly than any other part of your body. According to behavioral psychologist, people can easily recognize simply by observing a speaker's facial expression. Such distinct feeling as surprise, fear, happiness, confuse, disgust, interest, disbelief, anger, and sadness. To an audience, your space serves as a barometer for what's inside you. Your listeners will watch your face for clue about your sincerity, your attitude towards your message, and your earnestness in sharing your idea with them. Remove expression that do not belong on your face. These include distracting mannerism and unconscious expression which are unconnected to your feeling, attitudes, and emotions. Both type of unwanted facial expression usually are manifestations of nervousness. Just nerve speakers exhibit distracting gesture and body movements. They also may release excess energy and tension by unconsciously moving their facial muscles. Example of random facial expression including licking or biting the lip, licking or biting the lip, tightening the jaw, raising the corners of mouth, and and making twitching movements of any part of space. In this way. In this way you can show. Learn to look for body language. Sometimes we learn best by watching other and picking up our cues from them. If you are unsure about what types of gestures, expression, and other body movements you would like to incorporate it into your own speaking style. Observing the techniques of others might be good first step. For instance, become a people watcher. The next time you are at a shopping mall, amusement park, or other well populated area, take some time to observe others. Not only in human behavior fascinating, but watching how others act and react can be invaluable for speaker studying visual behaviors. Watch television. Here's the catch. The sound must be turned down. Vintage shows such as I Love Lucky are especially instructive when watching body signals. But even they must straightforward news broadcaster communicate non-verbally. Construct the subtitles of this type of communication with a more exaggerated style displayed in the board physical comedy. A steady photographers ever wonder by the saying a picture is worth a thousand words. A picture is worth a thousand words. continues to popular. Once you have studied old family photographs, the reason will be self-evident. Although social convention of the time may have something to do with the way the people were posed. A great deals can be inferred from the proximity of the subjects, how or if they are physically connected, and the nature of their facial expression. An audience consider these expression as indicator of nervousness and lack of confidence, experience and preparation. Such behavior can also make an audience nervous and decreasing in the receptively to the speaker's verbal message. Once you are aware that you display distracting facial expression, work towards controlling your appearances about speaking. Through preparation and involvement in your subject matter will be help you project confidence and control. The key to conveying friendliness is remembering to smile. To do constantly in invisible you might be liable to as inconsciously and it would be inappropriate during the serious presentation. But by all means smile when it's suitable to the situation. Show your listeners that you are pleased to have the opportunity to share your idea with them, that you are enjoying yourself and that you are interested in them. No rules govern the use of specific expression. By relaxing your inhalation and allowing yourself to respond naturally to your thoughts, attitudes and emotion, your facial expression will be appropriated and will project sincerely conviction and creditability. Eye contact. Each one of the category we have just discussed: physical appearance, postures, gestures, body movements and facial expression provide critical non-verbal elements of your speech. But after your voice, your eye are your most powerful tool for communicating. Why is eye contact essential? Even you speak, you involve your listener with your eye, making your presentation direct, personal, and conversational. One sure way to break the communication bond is to fail to look at your audience. No matter how large an audience may be, each listener wants to feel important to sense a personal connection with speakers and to feel that the speaker is communicating directly with him or her. Public speaking, remember, is amplified conversation. Just as a member of small informal group feel excluded from a conversation if the speaker does not meet his or her height. The people in your audience will feel left out if you fail to establish eye contact with them. In most culture, the act of looking someone is directly in the eyes is a symbol of sincerity. A failure to meet another person's gaze when you're speaking implies disinterested, lack of confidence, insincerely, or Chicanery. The same psychological association are found in public speaking. In other study, speakers who established eye contact were judged more truthful, honest, creditable, friendly, and seekful than those who did not. Only by looking at your listeners, at individuals, can you convey them that you are sincere, that you are interested in them, and that you are care whether or not they accept your message. When you speak, your eyes also function as a control device. Simply by looking at them, you have an influence on your listeners' attentiveness and concentration. On the other hand, if you do not look at them, they would not look at you, and attention and attentiveness to your message will suffer. In turn, the effectiveness generated by your effective eye contact can serve as a source of strength and encouragement for you. When you see that the audience is interested in your message, you will gain confidence and become more comfortable. Eye contact can also help you overcome nervousness. Fear is the most common causes of nervousness in speaking, and fear is caused by the unknown. Eye contact make your audience as known quantity. When you look at your listeners and realize that most are interested in your message, your fear will evaporate and your nerves tension will be decreased. Not only to your eye send vital message while you are speaking, they also receive them. Effective eye contact is a feedback device that makes the speaking situation a two-way communication process. Only by looking at your listeners can you determine how they are reacting. Are you performing well? Does the audience understanding what you are saying? Are you holding the audience attention? Does the audience understanding what you are saying? By watching the audience reaction, you can make immediate adjustment to your presentation. Experienced speaker consider this visual feedback to be biggest benefit of eye contact. Once you have developed the ability to audience to reach and tailor your words accordingly, you will become a much more effective speaker. How to use high effectively? There are three methods of effective message. Know your material. Know your materials. Having control over your verbal message is prerequisite for establishing effective eye contact with your audience. You should know your speech so well that you do not have to devote your mental energy remembering the sequence of idea and words. Your projection must be outward to be the audience, not inward towards mental turmoil. If you can speak effectively without notes, by all means to do so. But if you must use outlet or some other form of written remediant reminder. Go ahead, just do not left it to be a substitute for preparation and rehearsal. You can use your eye effectively while using notes, but this requires practice and conscious efforts. Many experienced speakers are highly adapted at this skill, taking advantage of such natural pauses as audience laughter or the off- aftermath of an important point to glance briefly at their notes. To make this technique work, you must keep your notes brief in few simple words or symbols keyed to the sequence of your message. If you know your material and are well prepared, these cues should be enough to keep you on course and avoid losing eye contact with your audience. Next, second one, establish a bond. When you speak, you are communicating with group of individual people, not performing before a single unit. So, making effectively eye contact means more than just passing your gaze throughout the room. It means focusing on individual listeners and creating person to person relationship with them. How do you do this? How do you do this? Begin by selecting one person and taking to him or her personally. Hold that person high long enough to establish a visual bond, perhaps 5 to 10 seconds, or the time required to say sentence or share one thought. Then shift your gaze to another person. You may have noticed the speaker who is head from side to side or slowly shift his gaze from right to left like an oscillating fan. Always remember that although your eye need to move from one person to the next person, they should not be follow any set pattern. With an audience the size of typical Toastmasters club, this is relatively easy to do. But if you are addressing hundreds or thousands of people, it is impossible. However, if you pick out one or two individuals in each section of the room and establish personal bond with them, each listener will get the impression you are taking to him or her directly. Next, third one, monitor visual feedback. While you delivered a speech, your listeners are responding with their own nonverbal message. Use your eye to speak out this visible feedback. By monitoring this visual message, you can change the audience reaction to what you say, then adjust your presentation accordingly. If individuals in the audience are not looking at you, then may not be listening either. Sometimes this is because they cannot hear you. If you are not using a microphone, speak louder and see if that gets positive reaction. Perhaps they are just bored. If so, you will need to regain their attention, perhaps by using appropriate humors, increasing your vocal varieties, or adding some purposeful gesture or body movements. Do your listeners look puzzled? If so, you may need to provide additional explanation for something you have said. Watch them as you do, and when their faces register understanding, move on to the next point or idea. Are you listener following at you? Or your listener following at you? Remember, an audience unconsciously mirror the speaker. Maybe you are unconsciously following, forming at them. Smile, then see if their expression change. The same hold true for audience members who are fidget nervously, fidgeting, fidgeting nervously. Maybe you have been engaging in distracting, distracting physical mannerism. On the other hand, if their facing indicate pleasure, interest, and close attention, do not change a thing. You are doing great job. I guess. I guess. When a person looking directly into your eye while having a conventional, it indicates that they are interested and paying attention. However, prolonged eye contact can be feel threatening. On the other hand, breaking eye contact and frequently looking away might indicate that the person is distracted, uncomfortable, or trying to conceal his or her real feelings. Blinking, blinking. Blinking is natural, but you should also pay attention to whether a person blinking too much or too little. People often blink more rapidly when they are feeling distressed or uncomfortable. Infrequently, blinking may indicate that person is intentionally trying to control his or her eye movements. For example, a poker player might blink less frequently because he is purposefully trying to appear unexisted about the hands he was default. Pupil size. Pupil size. Pupil size can be very subtle non-verbal communication signal. While light level in the environmental control pupil dilation. Sometimes emotions can also cause us small changes in pupil size. The mouth. The mouth expression and movements can also be essential in reading body language. For example, chewing on the bottom lip may indicate that the individual is experiencing feeling of worry, fear or insecurity. Covering the mouth may be an effort to be polite if the person is yaw- yawning or coughing. Person is coughing, but it may also be attempt to cover up frown of disapproval. Smiling is perhaps one of the greatest body language signals, but smile can also be interrupted in many ways. Smile may be genuine or it may be used to express false happiness, cramps, or even synapses. When evaluating body language, pay attention to the following mouth and lips signals. Pursued lips, tightening, tightening the lips might be an indicator of Distrust, disapproval, or distrust. Lip biting. People sometimes bite their lip with they are worried, anxious, or stressed. Covering the mouth. When people want to hide an emotional reaction, they might cover their mouth their mouth in order to avoid the displaying the smile or smirk. In this way they can covering the mouth. How to make good first impression? First impression are the critical people meet for the first time for an immediate judgment of one another that forever color the relationship. When you present a speech, you will be judged by the people in your audience, and the initial impression you make on them will directly affected by success of your presentation. One of your objective as speaker should be to create a visual image that complements that enhance your verbal message. You want you want to listeners to like you, trust you, and want to hear what you say. As a toastmaster, you have already made your first impression on your fellow club members. Remember, however, that you clubs is learning workshop that prepares you for outside speeches derived another audience, and in future you may be speaking in front of business groups and in your community. Too many of these audience you will be stranger, and make a good first impression will be a crucial. Do and do not dressing up for work. Dress is considered as a upscat, up, upset of nonverbal communication and has social significance for the audience. Dress also including the things that people wear such as jewelry, ties, handbags, hats, and glasses. Clothing conveys nonverbal clue about the speaker personality, background, and financial status. Your cloth style can be demonstrated your culture, mood, level, confidence, interest, age, authority, values, and sexual identity. Consider how cloth style might send a negative message. A sloppy appearance, messy hair, and wrinkled cloth send the message I do not care, while appropriate attire demonstrate the importance of the occasion. A tight dress with a low cut neckline might appear attractive but not convey the right message for serious public speaking event. Appropriate dress change based on the occasion and has changed over history. Dress code have built-in rules about the message sent by what a person wears and how they wear it, by showing positive aspects of yourself through dress, attire, and grooming. You can inspire confidence in your abilities. As a general rule, attire should be chosen according to be the type of audience. The event and the purpose. Audience should be considered before choosing attire. Dress should be comfortable without looking overdressed. Additionally, making a fashion statement is not always helpful for public speaker because it can detract from the substance of the speech. Not sure what to wear to your very first day at work. What to look well put together without looking like you are trying too hard. Whether you are a newbie or simply want to dress your way to the top, consider this your cheat sheet. Do not go too bare. The heat wave can be one trick season to dress for. From the humid climate to overcrowded commute to work, it's start to pick out an outfit that keep you well clad while you do not sweat it out. But that does not mean you pick cloth that are best worn at the beach. No matter what your office environment is like, something or just not going to let people take you seriously at work. Do dress for the weather. What you can do instant dress for the weather. It might be tricky but not impossible. So what's the tricks? Go the staples in breathable fabrics. Do not wear do not wear bag, baggy cloth. We have those they wear baggy tee and ill-fitted denim like ultimate sim. But we are also aware how inappropriate dressing that make us look. Do balance with structured shelhotas. On such a day, all you need to do is remember one smile rule. Balance your baggy look with structure pieces. A certain level of tailoring nerves fail to make you look ready for the professional worlds. Do not wear the bare shoes. Not that we are suggesting you should wear brogues to work every single day to work, but here they are nothing fully exposed feet do not appeal to everyone. Do option for smarter footwear. Thanks to the humid weather, it is essential to wear footwear that lets your feet breathe. Do not forget do not forget groom. We about already told you about I am already told to you about grooming habit that will make you stand out at your workplace. No matter how relaxed your office environment might be, a certain level of grooming is imperative. Do grooms. Invest in quality skin and hair care product. Go for monthly pedicure and follow proper skin care regime. Do not ditch the pant shoot. Classic pieces are called so for a reason. The nerves go out style. So if you are thinking pant shirts are the thinking of the parts, you have got it all wrong. Do invest in a custom made two pieces. From Paris to Malina, the common elements on the runway was two pieces with the trendy twist of color and deconstructed silhouettes. It's easy to take the two pieces from work to happy hour. Dressing. Dressing up the workplace. Do. Try something that not you once in while. Okay. Do wear black for evening affair if the event is black tie. Do keep dyed shoes in the closed with the bride's mind dress. Do take advantage of bringing him back shoe that is will we will dye him black policy. Do not, however, wear dyed shoes if there is any changes of shoe any chance of shoe chance of snow or rain. The color is likely to bleed. Do carry a small evening bag and do not overstuff it. Do saw Walker sew Walker on strapless brands and on your dress to keep everything in place. Do not wearing. Do not wear a casual watch with every dress clothing. Do not wear a casual jacket or a fancy dress. Do not wear anything too tight, too sexy, or too see through. Do not wear uncomfortable shoe. Do not upstage the bride in something that's too attention getting. Okay. Thanks. Thank you, friends. Thank you, students. Okay.